Like, all right, welcome to the green room. Let's take you right to where we were a second ago. Eliot doing the no. Don't say it right now as we're talking about the numbers. Like, I wasn't gonna say it then. It was
I know, but
I
I just wanted to make
for
sure.
the show to do the number. You ripped Tucker a new one yesterday. I mean, what do you think? I want that treatment?
No, I would never rip either of you guys a new one. You know that.
Oh, I don't know. Tucker told me after the pod how
There's
hurt
the
he
chain
was.
of screaming.
Yeah,
you
Tucker
screamed at
told
me.
after
I screamed at Rod.
Yeah,
and then we moved on with our
Tucker
day.
told me how hurt he was after.
What did you scream at Rod about?
About our cameras not being on at the Super Bowl. It wasn't his fault. He's just
what
one,
are we doing here, guys?
He's just the one who got to hear me.
Yeah.
Oh, on Radio Row.
Yeah.
It seems like Radio Row was not a banner day yesterday. It feels like we got to pick our game up today.
Well, I will say the 5:30 Creed was certainly something.
Well, yeah. If you heard it on the radio, you would definitely say it was something.
Oh, really?
Yes. Let's just say no one thought about levels or audio sound or any of those important things that happens when you do a radio show. So, yeah, It didn't sound great, but maybe don't sing Creed. I don't know. It's just a thought that I have.
Well, I do. I love the other Creed song. That one's not my favorite song.
Creed blows. Can we just be honest about it?
There it is.
There it is. Thank you. All right. They're Dallas fans. Like, why is this a thing? Like, anyway.
Oh, are they? I didn't know that.
Yeah, you don't remember the funniest video of all time? Them doing the show at the Dallas.
No,
game?
I know. I just figured they just put Dallas stuff on because they were there.
No, I think
didn't
they're
know
Dallas fans. I'm gonna say they're Dallas fans as a way to hate them more. So.
All right, there you go.
It's just their music's lame.
They're from Florida.
Okay, so that works too.
What's their most famous song? I can't think of the name.
Can you take me higher?
Yes, thank you. I told Spike that was their most famous song, and he was like, "No, it's not." But
it's not even close. I don't even know another Creed song. Like I know they sing the other. I've never heard another Creed song like Creed singing it. Like that's the only
exactly.
one. Yeah, come to me for these things because I don't know anyway, and I will just tell you the only one that I know.
There you go.
I'm the barometer here. All right, ready to roll?
I'm ready to roll.
Good. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Hey, hello. It is the Go Birds podcast presented by the BetParks Casino and Sportsbook app. Eliot, Shorr-Parks, James Setzer with you. Eliot, getting pretty, looking good. If you are not, I always say tune in for the YouTube so you can, get the full experience. Today was a day you really should have tuned in because as you can see, Eliot, you get to see Eliot's beauty routine.
Today's the day I throw any self-awareness out the window. I have no shame. Let me tell you. All right. Can we just get right into this? Can we just start? Well, actually,
with
should we
your
do
eye thing? Yes. So my wife and daughter wear the same things. They have
I'll be curious to know what brand they use. Yeah, maybe we can
I could get that information for you.
Share beauty tricks.
Zoe loves wearing them.
Dude,
it's
I'm telling you.
Adorable.
All right, I'm telling you to everyone listening, they are the best thing. There are a few things I look forward to on the day than putting these things on my eyes and feeling the coolness around it. Like, I'm just letting you know. Like, you guys are laughing. Tucker, I think you would enjoy it. James, you've tried it.
I tried it and I did not enjoy it. See, that was the exact thing. Like, it feels like I'm just like
it's like
wetness
cool, like
under
it's
my
like
eyes.
Right.
Why
it's
do I
almost
want
like
that?
It's not like a slime. That's not right the way to put
That's
it.
what it feels like, though. It feels slimy and gross.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the best. Dude, I ordered a whole new pack to bring. I have them in the fridge here at the hotel.
At least
what I
they're
wouldn't
green.
give.
I'll give you
that's it. Well, they're also kind of like football eye patches. That's how I'm looking
They
at
do.
it.
Look, at first, when you first popped on, a half second of is he wearing.
Yeah, I figured I'd get right into it. So I do have a big picture thought, but do we want to do inner excellence first?
Yeah. We're bringing it in here, big dog. All right, we got day 30. We got inner excellence. We got media night coming up.
All right. Oh, I know. Trust me.
Over here. All right, day 30 before we get to inner excellence. So tell me, I've said I'm bad at numbers. The only one that I think is number 30 was Corey Clement, number 30.
Yeah, that was the obvious one. That was the one I thought of. Yeah, right, Corey Clement.
I mean, I've watched that Super Bowl like 50 times. I should probably
three
know,
others that I can.
Okay, so for some reason,
I got nothing else. It's Corey Clement day for me over here.
Sean Considine.
Sean Considine.
Wow. No, Colt Anderson.
Oh, okay. Colt Anderson.
Sean Considine was 37.
Man, remember the Colt Anderson days? That was something.
Yeah. Wait, what about didn't Quinion wear 37 in camp, or am I wrong about that?
You were 30 in camp. That was
you were 30 in camp.
One.
That was it. Was JR, remember JR Reed?
JR Reed.
Of course I remember JR Reed. Was he
He tore up his knee jumping a fence.
Jumping a fence.
Chased by a dog.
Yeah. That was
I actually think he tore up
injuries
his foot.
Could end his career. No, it was his. I thought it was his knee.
I thought
I think it's his knee.
I thought he pinched a nerve on the bottom of his foot. Yeah. No, I remember it ended his foot. I thought he hit the bottom.
He came back. He came back like 2
But
years
it ended
later.
his career for real. He was never the same player. He never had
No.
Was he 30 though?
He was 30.
There
And
we
there's
go.
one more who is a kick returner. Some think he should be in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, Brian Mitchell.
Brian Mitchell.
Oh yeah. Oh, that
He's
makes
on.
sense.
He's on Radio Row, which is what made me.
I saw him chatting with you this morning. That's what made me think of it.
You saw him chatting with me?
With Hugh.
Oh, okay.
Hugh.
I was gonna say it.
With
You're not
Hugh.
gonna lie. Hugh and you sound
it's tough.
insanely alike.
I love how he's like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna say something revelatory
Yes,
we've never
yes.
thought about. Yes, anyone named Hugh, we all know this. This is like a common thing.
As someone who has to
Hugh.
transcribe videos of the midday show, I promise you, it's always Hugh and you get mixed up.
100%. Yeah. Man, I know. Oh, it was funny yesterday on Radio Row. So we're set up. Our table is set up like pretty close to the Washington D.C. Odyssey station. And for like 3 minutes, I was just being like, last week was Washington. They're not a real team. They're not a real contender. It's a good test, but it wasn't a great test.
You love trolling people.
And I swear they were looking at me the whole time, just being like, this guy, like, da. But it is true. Like, it is true that while Washington was a hot team and it was a good, test or whatever, like the Chiefs are just a completely different animal when it comes to the test that they'll have in the Super Bowl.
Well, yeah. Again, pretty obvious statement. But
Yeah, I
appreciate
know, right? Yeah. Yeah.
All right,
well, I
let's
got
do
news
some-
for you, buddy. If you don't like obvious statements, get ready for not a fun next 25 minutes for you. Yeah.
All right, let's do some Jimbo Murphy. See what Jimbo's up to.
Yes. All right. By the way, I haven't seen Jim Murphy on Radio Row yet.
Wow, he'll be there. This is an all-time opportunity for Big Jim.
Okay. I think we actually
Sorry,
did this
James
one, which
Cameron,
is pretty
by the way.
crazy.
I know you are the only Big Jim. I will not call anyone else Big Jim.
Jim, he was in a movie I watched recently. Wait, wasn't he in the Saturday Night Live movie?
James
Not him.
Cameron?
No, sorry. I'm thinking of Jim Henson. My bad. I was thinking of the Muppets.
What?
Yeah.
What a
close.
pivot. Yes,
Kinda close.
the character Jim Henson is in the Saturday Night Live.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
Not close. Jim Henson, Jim Cameron, not close.
Both start with J. Inner excellence.
Jim,
Here we go.
James, but yes, go start with J. Go ahead.
You know, between the eye patches and the self-help book right now, I do feel like I'm getting some much needed rest. I get to see your face, I don't get to see
Look at
Tucker, but I
this.
get to hear him.
Ah.
Okay. The story in your heart. Imagine just tuning into the live feed on WIP right now and like, what in the world is going on the station people used to love? No. What's controlling you at any given moment are the stories and ideas that have settled into your heart, especially the overall story you've come to believe about who you are. What's more valuable, what's most important, and what's possible in your life. These all have a tremendous impact on your moment-to-moment energy or your state. I got
Cool.
nothing with that one, to be honest.
So I'm committed to the bit. I'm getting to the point where I tune out every time we read Inner Excellence. I'm just like, all right, I get it, Jim.
I guess
get
this,
it, buddy.
I guess this part,
keep saying the same thing over and over again, more or less.
Especially the overall story you've come to believe about who you are. I think there is truth to that in terms of like,
yeah, of course. There's truth to a lot of this stuff in here. It's just it feels like it's like, again,
you're not a self-help book guy.
I'm not. I feel like I could have written this book if I wanted to, and that makes it less impressive.
Well, to be fair,
I just spout off a bunch of cliches and I'd be fine. And I did a book.
So to be fair, you do love cliches for what it's worth.
I do when they're cliches for a reason.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
agree. Yes.
And there's probably lots of books you can write because you read a lot of books.
I do read a lot of books, but I've never claimed to write one.
I think you could write one though.
Thanks, buddy. Your belief in me really just lifts me up every day,
No problem. No problem.
All right. You want to do your big picture thought before we get to
can I do my big picture thought?
Yes. Clearly it's all you want to do. You came in with a thought and an idea, and you want to get to it.
For like 40 minutes, I've been thinking about telling you this. So I'm ready to get. All right.
The build-up better be worth the payoff.
It's not going to be. So.
When is it? I mean, right?
Yeah, amen. All right. So this is, I don't know, the 6th Super Bowl I've covered. So I know this is going to come across.
Just through that. You heard that right there. I don't know. It's like the 6th one. No big deal.
Yeah. I can't remember if it's 5 or 6. I mean, when you cover the Eagles, this is what happens, right?
Yes.
But I know this is going to qualify as like a duh thing, but it really has hit me this week. And I just want your opinion on it because I do think you're going to agree with it. It is crazy to think that it is the biggest game of these guys' career. They spend all year doing it one way, right? they go to the NovaCare and they work out with these weights. They eat this food at this time. They have this meeting at this time. They go home to their house. They sleep there. And that is what helps them be great all year, if you think about it. Like, I'm a pretty regimented guy. I feel like you're a pretty regimented guy. Your schedule's a little crazier, but
more so since the morning show. I feel like
exactly,
have to be regimented to survive. But yes.
It is crazy to think that in the biggest professional day of what could end up being their entire life, right? There's a chance the Eagles never play in a game as big as this one again. I think they will, but you never know, right? That they just throw them in a different city, in a hotel, different food, different weight room, like different schedule, getting pulled 800,000 ways. When I'm at media night last night, and I love media night, and I think it's fun and it's crazy to think that 4 days before the biggest game they ever have to play, they have to go and spend like 3 hours of their day doing that. Like, it is wild to think. Like, I get it, and it's not about the game and all that, but like, man, it is a distraction. It is. Like, it's who handles it well, but
I think it's part of the game, obviously. It's part of the whole
exactly.
How these teams handle. But look, I mean, you're basically saying what Alshon Jeffrey said in that legendary Super Bowl interview. I mean, that's why it's so great. He's like, I'm just here to play football. It's so dumb. I hate all this. Like, let me just play football. Like, it is. I would think that a lot of the players feel what you're feeling and what you're thinking. And it's just like, hey, like, this is way too much when I'm just trying to go and play a football game. But at the same time, I will say, I fully support it. Like,
me too.
It's the Super Bowl. Like, it
100%.
should be this big deal. It should be in a different place. Like, I don't think a team should have a home field advantage in the Super Bowl unless their fans show up or whatever. You know what I mean? I think I support the way I think they should have the extra week off. I think they should put these players on a pedestal and all these guys should get their moment talking to the world, whether they want it or not. So, like, I love it, but I agree with you. It is crazy to think about that it is so one way, and then you end the season with this party, essentially.
So I love it too, to be clear. I don't see how it doesn't impact how you play in the game. Like, it has to be so hard.
Part of the calculus.
No, right. That's the hard part.
And that's why we talk about, going back. It's important they were there 2 years ago. It's important. Like, even, it gets brought up every year when we talk about the game and teams talk about the Super Bowl, but like the 40-minute halftime, like all this stuff, it's all these things that are different from the norm. It's not the thing you're used to. So, I actually think it's a fascinating. Jason Kelce loves to say, he said it so many times on the morning show, and I'm sure other people have heard it say in other places, but one of his favorite things about football is it's about who's better that day in those conditions. And that's why he defends the field in the Super Bowl. He's like, I hate it, but he's like, that's what football is. It's like you take the conditions, the field, the situation, all that, and who's better that day. So I do think that, that's part of this. It's how do you handle all this stuff and still go out and perform,
Yeah, no, 100%. But I do think that's also where Jalen's personality is like very set up for a week like this. While I am sure he hates it, because he strikes me as an extremely regimented guy. Like, this is what I do, like, day in and day out, like, to the minute. But like, I also don't believe is easily distracted. Like, I'm sure he's thought this all out. And we were talking about this on the morning show, but I think it's 100% true that, Joe DeCamera asked me, like, what's the team's vibe? Like, do they feel like they're being slated by being an underdog? Do they feel like they're really reveling in the Super Bowl? And the vibe I got being around them last night at media night, like, they had fun with it, and we'll talk about who like shined and was a star and all that. But it's really the same vibe I felt from this team from training camp, which is all they talk about is winning the Super Bowl. Like, that is the sole focus. And I know people will hear that and go, well, of course, every team, that's their focus. But I'm telling you, I've been around every Eagles team for the last 12 years. Like, it's not that. Like, in 2017, it wasn't that. They weren't supposed to win the Super Bowl. In 2022, they weren't supposed to go to the Super Bowl. As the seasons went on, they became those teams. But the difference is, this team, every single time you ask them a question about, is this a potential distraction? Like, what about this? Like, literally almost anything you ask them, it comes back to, like, we're focused on this week because this week helps us get to our larger goal. And while it is a distraction, and trust me, I don't know if you can tell, I'm not handling the last 24 hours well. I'm tired. Like, I'm just not in my zone. I think this team is set up to handle it well. Like, I really, really do. I'm excited to see them later today to, it'll be a different media thing and see how they're acting today. But in a world where they're in the biggest party city in the world, they are dealing with all types of distractions they never have to deal with. They're getting pulled 800,000 ways, I'm sure. They're getting crazy questions last night. that like my big picture thought is it is unfair to the players in the game that they have to deal with this week. But I think this team is like very well set up to deal with it.
Yeah, I said it last week after the game, after the Washington game. They kept saying the one more thing. I mean, Jordan Davis, Jeffrey Lurie on the stage said it. Like, it. This team has clearly had one goal in mind, and I think
Yep,
it's not just
100%.
this year. I think it was last year too. It just fell apart. But I think since these guys lost the Super Bowl, get back and win it has been the mantra of everything, and it
Yeah.
makes sense. It jives with Jalen, the way he goes about his business, with Nick, and how competitive these guys are. And we've talked about how much we know it stuck with them, the Jalen lock screen, all that stuff. So yeah, I think this team is uniquely ready for the moment. I do. I think that all this stuff is just stuff, and that they're there to play a football game. But guess what? The Chiefs are pretty good at that too. They've done it a bunch of times. So
well, that is where the
I don't think it's
experience,
an
too.
advantage. I think it matters, and I think the Eagles are in the right frame of mind, and I think it's what they have to do. And I love the messaging, but I don't think it's like an advantage over the Chiefs. I think it's just now you can play with the Chiefs.
No, yeah, I don't think it's an advantage either, but I do think what it is too is it matters that they've done this before too. Like they're used to the experience. Yeah,
it's
for
not
sure.
an advantage for the Chiefs the way it was last time. And look, we saw it. You talked about it rewatching the Super Bowl. We all remember it. Like halftime mattered. Like we don't know how much of a role it played in how the Eagles looked in the second half, but there is clearly a first half Eagles and a second half Eagles, and those two things are very, very different. So I agree with you. I think going through the whole experience, knowing what the halftime's like, knowing how long you're sitting there, knowing like all this stuff, what it's like to have a lead at halftime, all these things I think are super valuable experience for this next,
Yeah, and Lane Johnson said something last week before coming to New Orleans, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he did reference how the long halftime, like I think he said something to the effect of like they didn't handle it well.
Yeah,
I'll be curious to ask him more about that today. But yeah, so you're right. Like I do think the coaching staff, now Lane had been in the 2017 Super Bowl, so I guess his experience didn't help him there. But
it's one thing when you've got a few guys who are in that game, as
exactly
opposed to a whole team and a coaching staff and all that stuff.
Right, a way larger percentage of the roster and coaching staff has now been through this than the 2022 one had with 2017.
All right, let's get into last night because look, yeah. I think the vast majority of people who watched media night on television thought it sucked. If we're just gonna call it like we see it, it was
I'm curious for your perspective because I had a different view of it. Obviously,
well, it just was a bad TV product. You couldn't hear the questions. They kept going back to the studio for long stretches of time. Like it felt small. Like it felt kind of empty in the arena there comparatively. Like it wasn't like big pops for players when they were announced. There wasn't like the sound of a crowd buzzing and all that type of stuff. So just and it just, when you think of Super Bowl media night, you think of whether it's, cousin Sal dressing up as John Casey in
exactly.
and doing that. You think about like the woman asking to marry Tom Brady in the wedding dress, like all these fun, like stuff that like adds character and fun. It's supposed to be a wacky, fun night. And now it just feels like a blown out press conference. It's like press conferences with individual players, but it's like, I don't know. It fell flat for me.
So I also had that takeaway. And again, no big deal to me as someone that's covered 5 or 6 of these things. Like the wackiness has definitely gone away. Like I feel like I look forward to going to it thinking like, what celebrity's going to be there? And the most famous person there last night was The Bachelor from like 2 seasons ago, which wasn't
tough.
that.
That's
exactly.
Yeah.
I was hoping for more reality stars, but whatever. But regardless, like there was one guy dressed as a genie, but outside of that, that was it. Like it was literally just a ton of beat writers and TV people like crammed into a small place. I agree with you. Like it's essentially pointless to try to even listen or talk to any of the big players or big people there. What I do think they could do if we want to brainstorm on how it could be better, I think they just need to embrace the fact that like you just give a mic to the person asking the question at the podium and people stand in line. Like it's like everyone's yelling. You can't really hear. Like it's hard for the players to even hear the question. That being said, I do think a lot of the personalities on the Eagles shined through last night. Like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was a star last night. Like he was having fun. He was eating the W cookie. He said the ring he'll put it on is his ring finger because he's married to the game. Like he, I think, really shined through last night. Jordan Mailata, this was to be expected, but like he definitely shined through. He sang the Eagles fight song at one point. He talked about the clip from the Washington game where he said, well, I break your will or your body. And, talked about like superheroes. So, like he shined through. I thought Nick Sirianni had some good moments. probably the
I thought
two.
Nick was subdued, which
He
he
was.
hasn't
I
all
agree.
year. Like,
Yeah.
I've noticed it every time we have Nick on the morning show, and I've talked like off the air. Like when I talk to him, he'll like chuckle. He's cool. He gets on the air and they'll be like, "Hey Nick, big win, great job." Or he's like, "Hi guys, how you doing?"
Yeah.
Like he is very purposefully calm and dry and like not trying to give anything. And I felt like it was like that, like when him and Andy were up there, it was just like, yep, they're a great
Well,
team.
we
We're
know.
really excited. We love each other. Like I
Yeah.
think he is like going above and beyond to rein it in all these situations.
For sure. And we know why. It's because
Yeah.
when he has those moments where he shows too much emotion, he gets absolutely obliterated for it nationally and locally. But like, yeah, so I think that's definitely part of it. I thought that Jalen really shined through too. Like he probably had the line of the night when
the DNA line was the line of the night. Without
when
a
the
doubt.
guy,
It was like the only funny moment all night, it felt like.
yeah, the guy asked him, for those that didn't hear it, the guy asked him, you're essentially you're such a good looking guy. How can I get better looking? And Jalen was like, that seems like a DNA problem for you. So that was a good line. Saquon had the shot at the Giants. Did you hear this?
I sure did.
Yeah, where
I think that was, but I don't know about you. I took that partially as getting Daniel Jones's back.
100%. That's 100% what it was. Yeah. So that was a cool moment. The other thing that stood out is like Cooper DeJean and Reed Blankenship, the whole like exciting white things. That there was first of all
they have leaned into it.
They have full time
so much. I know.
They walked together around the entire. They walked around together.
The Sixers game when all those players were there, they're there together, and
yes, exactly.
It just feels like they have been like, all right, we're the exciting whites, and we're gonna do this thing.
So I honestly couldn't tell if this is a parody account. So if I'm being fooled right now, like hand up, I got fooled. But I saw a tweet last night that they said they might start a podcast called The Exciting Whites, where they drink white wine. Like that seems a little crazy. Like they
a little over the top. Yeah.
Yeah. Now maybe someone asked him if they would do that, and they said yes.
Drink wine? Is he old enough to drink wine yet?
It's a good question. I feel like he's over 21.
Right?
Yeah, I feel like he probably had a long college
He looks
career.
like he's 14, so you never know.
Exactly, yeah. But no, I mean, they're like Cooper's a star. Like people were yelling his name from the crowd. Like you can tell Cooper is already an outstanding player, but you can tell that if he becomes everything he can be, like he will be one of the biggest stars in the NFL for sure. So that stood out. It's also funny, like Quinyon, like obviously the better player, I think at this point. Although Cooper's awesome too.
But Quinyon's better.
Quinyon played all year. Like he is such a quiet guy, like he was definitely getting interviewed, but you could have walked around and thought that he was just like almost a staff member in the way of just like, a lot of players had like glasses on or they're taking pictures or they're going crazy. Quinyon had a very Alshon vibe to him of like, I'm just here because I have to be here from 7 to 8 o'clock. Like, so the players definitely took it in differently. I talked to Cam Jurgens. He's going to play. One noteworthy thing, and I'll say it on the pod, I didn't tweet it, but like, I'm pretty sure Landon Dickerson sat down for a lot of the night, which is rare for a player. So I'll have to ask him more about that today, but I think he's going to play, but I don't know. I thought that was a little interesting. Maybe he just felt like sitting. Who knows? But
maybe they told him to sit. Maybe they said, "Hey, man, sit as much as."
Yeah, that's what I mean, right? Like I think it feels like.
Look, we know he's not 100%. I don't.
Yes,
think
exactly.
We saw him like again. I said after the game, but he literally looked like a 95-year-old man who had just had hip surgery, trying to walk along the top.
Yes,
it was wild.
Yes. Yeah, no, so that was another takeaway. I'm trying to think. Obviously, we'll get into Jeffrey Lurie and Carson in a minute.
Well, that's where I was going to go next.
Yeah,
I think those were, we'll get to Carson in a sec. Your basic, one-on-one with Carson. No big deal.
Yeah.
But you got, the first person to get Carson on the record
about
his
time. Had to do it.
We'll get to it, though. Let's start with Lurie, because you made the point on the morning show, and it's so true that it feels like we used to hear from him a few times a year. Like
he used to talk in training camp all the time.
Camp. He used to talk at the end of the season in the locker room. It felt like he used to talk, obviously the owners' meetings is still whatever. But you got to talk to Jeffrey a bit last night. Obviously some interesting things came up, of course. You asked about a freaking dome.
Of course I had to.
Of course.
But tell me it's not the best quote that came out of him last night. Or certainly like
for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so get into it. Like the Jeffrey stuff. What'd you make of what he had to say about the dome, about the Celtics, about all of it?
Yeah. So first, before those two specific things, like Jeffrey, obviously they're in the Super Bowl, so he's got a lot to brag about right now. But when he sits there and talks for a full hour, and a lot of the questions he gets are not from local people. He got a lot of local questions, but he gets national guys and all that stuff. And like he's able to sit there confidently and be like, I have the best GM in the game. And like every question he gets is like, like how is Howie so great? Like how are you able, so like Jeffrey is in a good place right now. Like Jeffrey's had a good life, to be clear.
Yeah,
But
Howie had Nick, and Nick's doing
yeah,
great. Like it's like all the it's
exactly.
like Jeffrey,
Yeah.
good work, pal. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a lot of like it is funny to watch beat writers from other teams. Like, I don't know if you cover the Jags, but you're here. It's like they ask questions that are like, please explain to our fan base how my team can become good. Like that's essentially the vibe of the question when like other beat writers ask Jeffrey about guys. But so he did a lot of that. In terms of, do you want to do the Nick stuff, the stadium stuff? What do you?
Hey, buddy, you were the one there. Lead the way.
Okay.
You're the fullback. I'm just following. I'm Saquon.
Well,
Richie?
just go from
you're John
Richie to Eliot. Similar
that's
vibes. Richie strikes me as an eye patch guy. I could picture Richie doing it.
He used to have the underneath the.
Well, no, but I mean like these ones. Yeah.
No, 0%.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Richie's into style now. I'm telling you.
Yeah, only because like when people help him with style, I would bet everything I have that not only is he not an eye patch guy, he has never no joke when I say this, he might not know that those things exist. Like that
Maybe,
is something that people do.
I think he would like him if he did them. But I think so. He's a stylish man. But regardless. Okay, so I asked him, and I think this is maybe not getting enough play. I asked Jeffrey about like Nick's emotion on the sideline this year and how he handled it. And he said it's his, it's a strength and a weakness of his. And he went on to say, everyone's human, everyone has strengths and weaknesses, and he loves Nick emotion and it really, blah, blah, blah. I just thought it was a little surprising he used the word weakness when talking about it. Like, it's pretty clear, and this isn't a secret, but yeah, I think there's definitely been times where Jeffrey felt Nick stepped over a line or he didn't like how he handled something. So I thought acknowledging that last night was different. You mentioned how Nick seems subdued at times now, and I think that's certainly why. Like, I'm sure they have discussions and conversations about that. So yeah, I thought that was interesting about Nick. I wasn't there for the what he had to say about giving Nick an extension. Shout out to Ruben Frank. Apparently he's the one that kind of pushed him on it. So I guess at first Jeffrey Lurie was like, I don't talk about contracts. And then Rube pushed him a little more and said how at one point he said Andy Reid would be the coach for life or something like that. And he basically said he felt that way about Nick. So I don't think
we all know. Like,
yeah, Nick's gonna get an extension.
If Nick does not get an extension after the Super Bowl, like I will. Like, it'll be the most shocking thing that's happened in a long time in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
He is getting an extension.
And also, I don't think the extension gives him more job security. Like, I think Nick has
a little
jobs.
bit, but I think he has it coming off a Super Bowl.
Exactly, right.
But let's not forget, I mean, Jeffrey is the quickest to ever fire a Super Bowl winning coach in the history of the NFL. So,
Right. Look, breaking news. Nick will be the head coach next year. But if they, for whatever reason, and they won't, but let's say they go like 5-11 with a relatively healthy roster, like it doesn't matter if he just paid him a contract. Like he'll still just fire him.
Jeffrey will be willing to eat money. We know that.
Exactly. So this is more just, I think, like a attaboy kind of extension. And it avoids the distraction. Like,
Well, I think for the most part, unless it's Jerry Jones and Mike Brown in Cleveland, who seem like they're unwilling to pay extra money, the two cheapest owners in the sport, and Craftsman. but he just fired a coach even after the first year. So I think ultimately it wouldn't. But also I think that Nick's not going anywhere anytime soon. So
no, I agree 100%. Yeah, and it's not like it impacts the cap. But all right, so the stadium stuff. First, he didn't really say much about the Celtics. He says he doesn't have interest now, but you never know.
So the way I interpreted his Celtics answer was, I'm not talking about this during the Super Bowl. Figure out what happens later. Like, he was basically like, I don't think he said, I'm not interested right now, but I love the Celtics. Great run, whatever. The way I interpret that was a whole lot of nothing. It was like, I'm not talking about this right now. I'm not creating a big distraction for my team while they're in the Super Bowl. Like, that's something I'll worry about later. But I do not think at all that it means that he's not in on buying the Celtics.
100%. I think that was a let's get out of here. And I do think
it was, I'm not creating a distraction, period. Yes. Like, that was it. Done.
Well, and it's also, I think, like, hey, the Celtics are good, or, I feel like it's almost laying the groundwork a little bit for when he does. And I think he probably, he might not get the bid, but I think he will obviously try and
I think he'll be involved. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. The stadium stuff. So it came up because he was asked about the sports complex, and, he said, I think he said the lease is up in like 2032 or something. So I do think a new stadium is on their mind, especially when the Sixers are building one. I'm sure they had discussions like where the Sixers going to build it, how will it look, and the Eagles, as the biggest dog in town, like are clearly a part of that. And I think it's very clear, as I've always said, the new stadium will have a roof. Like it will. And I think the way he explained it, where it's like Philly deserves to host the Super Bowl, Philly deserves to have the Final Four. Like to me, I'm not saying fans don't deserve it, but I don't think fans care a ton. And correct me if I'm wrong, because you have a great read on fan base. Like, I don't think Eagles fans are gonna be like super excited that the Final Four is here and that a Super Bowl is
Look,
here.
I think they, if you ask them, would you like to have a Super Bowl in Philly? Of course, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
But I don't think that it will influence reasoning for wanting a dome or not, which I think most Eagles fans do not want a dome. I don't think people be like, well, at least we can get the Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly.
I think people will be annoyed about it, one way or the other. Is my guess.
So yeah, I agree.
Now a retractable roof, I think, is the real solution for everything here, if that's what they're going to do, because I do think that you want to still maintain that Northeast football thing and all that, but it's much, much louder in a dome, as we've talked about. I think that's the argument you always should have taken.
It's the big advantage.
Yes. Yeah. But I don't think they will just build a dome. I don't think it'll be a stadium that is always covered. I don't think that.
So I don't think so either. I think it'll be similar to maybe what the Rams have. Yep. Maybe not completely, but I'd be curious to know this. I feel like every time I'm in a retractable dome stadium, the roof's closed. Like, I wonder how often you actually open the roof.
So we know with the Arizona one, because of baseball, like they would have some closed, some open, depending in the playoffs. Remember, that was like, are they opening it today? Like right. So they do open it. It goes both ways.
Okay, yeah. But no, I think they will build a new stadium. It'll have a dome on it. And I would just say to fans, and I completely get it, like we're just coming off a Snow Bowl game that was insanely cool and awesome to look. I think my prediction is when they do this, for the entire time until they're in it, fans will be like, I don't want this, and then they'll go in the stadium and it'll be like, this is unbelievable. So that's just the direction I think this is headed.
Yeah, I think a retractable roof is what will happen.
Yeah, exactly.
I do think they'll build a new stadium for sure. I think they want to build a new stadium. I think they should. I mean, like the Link, we talk. I mean, the compare like Citizens Bank and the Link both came around the same time, and Citizens Bank is freaking awesome, and it holds up, and it feels like a great place to watch a game.
100%.
And the Link feels outdated. It's felt outdated for a decade, more. So I just think I think they'll do everything they can to build a new stadium there. Obviously there's a lot of hurdles and things you have to do, but I think they will build it.
I agree, but like there will be no more snow games, which will suck. Like they will close the roof when it's snowing.
I don't know that that's definitely true.
Really? You think they'd open it with the snow?
Yeah, I think that people love snow games, and I think that they know that people love snow games. I think
I'd be curious to see how they handle it. Yeah.
I think it will be open more than closed. I think they will still play in weather. I think the dome is more to lure other events than for Eagles games.
I think there's truth to that. Yeah. Yeah. I'll be curious to see how they do handle it in 7 years when we get that answer.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. All right, let's get to Carson, because you had a little one-on-one. You and Carson getting into it a little bit. You asked all the great questions.
Thank you.
Take us through it.
Yeah, so I will say Carson probably spent a half hour answering the same questions once I was done. So that is my big picture takeaway from Carson was I think he seems at peace with the Philly thing, which I'm happy to see. Like, I think he very easily could have been in a bad mood about it, doesn't want to talk about it. I'm here with the Chiefs now. I want to focus on the game. Like, I think that would have been a mostly acceptable thing for Carson to do.
I agree with you.
Instead, he sat there and he answered every single question. Do you wish things would have done differently? Which I asked him, and he said essentially, yeah, of course. And that's true. Like, at one point he said, nobody when you get drafted by a team thinks you're going to be gone in 5 years. Like, Carson was drafted to be the franchise guy for a long time, and he was close to being it. Like, it didn't work out because of injuries, but Carson was very close to being, and he was the franchise quarterback for 2 or 3 years, however long you want to frame the time. But he said, he thinks of Philly fondly. He said he keeps in touch with Nick Foles. I'd be curious to know how much they actually talk, but he did say he was
effusive. He was very complimentary. He was like one of the best teammates I ever had. All that.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, he said, I thought it was he said, what a magical run that was for him, which is true. But
I noticed that. It was
a little interesting. And then I asked him about Jalen. I thought what was really interesting about the Jalen answer, and I'm curious if you picked up on this as well. Mm-hmm. My question about Jalen was, hey, did you think essentially Jalen would be this good?
Mhm.
I didn't ask anything about like their relationship, blah, blah, blah. And in his answer, he unprompted was
About
like,
the COVID thing you talking
yeah,
about?
he was like, it was
Yeah.
hard to be close with rookies that year because of COVID. So it's pretty clear him and Jalen did not have a good
Look,
relationship. Like he offered that up unprompted.
no bleep. Like,
Yeah,
of
100%.
course. Like,
Yeah.
and guess what? If I'm Carson Wentz in that moment and they draft a guy in the second round, like, F that guy. Like, I'm
I
the same,
agree.
like, I would expect a competitor to be like, especially when you know it's because you could be on the way out because of it. Like, yeah, I don't blame him for any of that stuff.
Yeah. So that was his Jalen stuff. But overall, my biggest takeaway from Carson was like, it was good to see him. Like, I will say, like, now that time has passed, like, I think it's cool that he was very friendly to all the Philly media. Like, he, was like, how you doing? Good to see you. So he seems in a very good place about it. Now, he's on a stage in front of the media, so who knows privately how he feels. But last night felt to me like a beginning of mending the fences between Carson and, like, the city. Not that they're completely broken, but it was an ugly ending. He played poorly. Like, and I asked him, would he come back for 2017, like a 10-year reunion? And he didn't flat out say
He was like,
yes. Yeah, he wasn't like,
I'm
catch
not
me
there
there
yet.
for sure.
Yeah.
But honestly, the vibe I got is I think he will come back. Like, I think.
Maybe. I don't know. He might still be playing. Like, who knows?
Well, there's all those
Yeah.
things. But in a world where, let's say, he has the ability to, I don't think he'll turn it down. I think
Maybe.
players will ask. Just my takeaway is I think he will come. That's
the impression I got was that it was more likely that it would come than I thought before, but I'm not at he would definitely come yet. Look, he should be okay with it. Like, he has $100 million because he played in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Whether, he feels great about the Super Bowl ring or not, he still got to go on a run and he got to, win a Super Bowl. And he got paid life-changing generational wealth for his family and himself. Like,
Yeah.
I get it that it was a frustrating way to end, but 5 years later, 7 years later, like, he better be able to step back and be like, wow, thank God all that happened. That was great. So I'm happy that he's getting it.
Yeah, I agree. I hope that he is. I think you would agree with this. Like, I'm sure it's very hard to get to that place despite the money and everything. But yeah, it was, it was good to see him in a good place, I guess is the best way to put it.
Love it. All right, you got anything else from media night?
I don't think so. I feel like that was kind of like you said, it was a bit of a dud of a media night. Like, outside of Jeffrey and Carson, like, yeah.
All right, so set up today, and then we'll get to final thoughts. But what you said, the players are talking. Like, what's the flow for today? What can we expect tweets about? And obviously, what we'll talk about tomorrow. But what's the flow?
Yeah, so today's a little bit back to normalcy, I would say. So they're gonna we get them for 45 minutes. It's similar to media night where they all have to be available for 45 minutes. The difference is it's just quite not as crazy. So they'll have that today. Nick will talk today. I'm not sure if Jalen talks today, but it'll start to feel a little bit more, I think, like a normal week. And then tomorrow, Wednesday, they'll practice Wednesday, Thursday. I think they'll try to get, like we started the pod with, like as in much of a rhythm to a similar week as they can. So I think that kind of starts today.
Love it. All right, let's get to final thoughts.
All right. So this is not a great one, just being honest.
Really
no
getting us
problem.
hyped for it.
Yeah, it's just, it is what it is. I think King of Queens is the most underrated sitcom ever.
Ooh.
I think it is.
So I love King of Queens. I don't.
Yeah.
So it's a question of what underrated levels. Like, there are shows. Like, have you ever seen Happy Endings? The show Happy Endings?
No.
So there are shows that only lasted for a couple seasons, and
Yeah.
like Happy Endings. It's, if you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor. It's like 66 episodes or 60 episodes, 22 minutes. It's a super easy watch. Like, it's freaking hilarious. Like, the whole show is freaking hilarious. If you go on any list of like what show got canceled and shouldn't have, it's on every list. Like, but so like that's a show that is like not even rated because no one ever talks about it, thinks about it, got canceled. That is awesome. So I think that is in a way more underrated. But if you're talking about shows that were big hits that were on for a long period of time, I think King of Queens is up there. It might be.
Like, to be clear, Seinfeld is a better show. And
well, that's the point. Yes.
Deservedly more famous. But I enjoy watching King of Queens like almost as much. Like, I think it's just such a nice, funny, like, put it on.
Yeah, it's a great show. Great show. It's got
big fan.
Arthur Spooner, a little.
He's amazing in it. Like,
I
think you could almost argue he's better in that than he is in Seinfeld.
He's in it
but he's
so much more.
Exactly,
he's only in a few episodes of Seinfeld ultimately, and he's a main character on the show. Yeah, it's a great. Patton Oswalt, obviously,
Kevin James, that's a guy.
Dougie Heffernan. You couldn't remember
Yes.
Kevin James's name?
I could not. No, I could not.
Yes,
It's
Doug
fine.
Heffernan, the great Doug Heffernan.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's a great show. And Leah Remini,
Yes.
back in the day. I mean, whew,
Tell
really
me.
good stuff.
Yeah. Exactly.
Really
Yeah,
high level
great show.
stuff from Leah.
Also,
back in the day.
to kind of
Yeah.
piggyback off yesterday,
Yeah.
just a phenomenal intro song. Like
Oh,
all
I know.
time,
Yeah, it's a
like,
good
you
one.
know. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Nicely
all right,
done.
maybe a bit of a better final thought than I thought it was
Only
gonna
because
be.
I like King of Queens. You got lucky with that. It could have
Well, I
fallen
know.
flat.
Otherwise, you would have.
You're like, this reality show is really underrated. The
Yeah,
conversation
yeah.
would have ended much quicker.
Yes, for sure.
All right. Do you have tweets or social media
I tweet
things?
occasionally. Yeah.
Yeah. No bleep.
Yeah.
I almost cursed there, Tucker. That was an actual, like, I almost said no. The word that Eliot doesn't think should be a curse.
Yeah, so it would not really
really
have been a
bad
curse. Yeah.
I almost said it, and I didn't. So, do you have any tweets, or I guess Instagram, or for me, it's just tweets, but do you have any that have invaded your life to the point where, like, it's a part of your life? Like, so
I can't tell if you're kidding with me or not.
No. So I'm saying where it's like, so here's my example, and I think it may be my favorite tweet, but it's one of the funniest tweets of all time. It's by at Skull Mandible. And I'm sure a lot of people see it's a very famous tweet, but the most cutting thing you can say is, "Who's this clown?" Because it implies they're a clown, and B, not even one of the better known clowns. Now, the reason I bring that up is because every time the word clown, anything with a clown gets brought up in my house or comes up, Emily and I will be like, yeah, not even one of the better known clowns. Like, it is part of our life. Like, anytime clown comes up, we're going to make a joke about this tweet. Do you have any things like that have permeated, like a tweet that has become part of your and Kristen's life or whatever, where it's like a thing?
So one,
it's fun. It's fun. You know what I mean?
You want to know how I know this has infiltrated your life? This, no lie, has to be the 5th time you've read that tweet on the pod. So
there you go.
Like, it's a great tweet, and so like you have backed it up, right? So for me, it's commercial tunes. Like, if I hear certain words, me and Kristen will, like, I can't think of one off the top of my head right now, but just like if she says a certain word.
So I have that too with, like, songs.
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
Like if well, it's a song from a Talking Heads thing, but we'll always be like, I'm just a little freaked out. Like, is a line.
So one that I'll do is like, if she says the word clear, there's this commercial. It's like, things are getting clearer. Da-na-na.
Yeah, and then
like
you start singing it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think everyone has those things, and it's funny to think about what the most random of those are that just have become part of your everyday life. I'll do the, like, don't put it in the newspaper that I'm mad. Like, that's one. We'll do it all the time.
Yeah.
Like, if it's like, like those kinds of stuff.
So I have to get to radio. I'm supposed to be on Radio Row in 12 minutes, so we do have to wrap it up. But the last thing I'll say is, I think medical commercials have the best jingles. Like, medical commercials bring the fire when it comes to, like, sticking songs in your head.
I don't know. Like, we've talked on the radio, the Pepto-Bismol's one's my favorite. The upset
again,
stomach,
medical
diarrhea.
Yeah,
that.
But again, that's a medicine. Like, that's a medicine.
So you're saying anything related to medicine?
Yeah, like medicine.
I mean, but like, so gum back in the day, gum
would not qualify. They did too. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, come on.
I'm saying wouldn't qualify as medical. But yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Your fresh breath goes on and on.
Well, not to mention Forever.
Take it by a little longer. That's
one
of my favorite songs. I love
Forever by Chris. The song Forever by Chris Brown was originally a gum commercial.
How about that?
So there you go.
Yeah. Didn't know that.
Alrighty.
I'll forget it. All right. Go to Radio Row. We'll be back tomorrow. Same time, same place. He's Eliot James.